Okay, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Eloise Ansell. I'm a therapist and a MindScape instructor with the International Body Talk Association. I'm based in sunny UK and I'm all about helping people to evolve their intuition. Over the other side of the pond in Canada is the lovely Terryann Nikides. Terryann is a senior breakthrough instructor also with the International Body Talk Association, and she's been doing this kind of work for about 27 years now. So we're in really good hands this evening. And I'm really excited for tonight's call. Woo! So I just want to give a quick premise of what breakthrough is, and then we'll get stuck into the conversation of this evening. So breakthrough is a really gentle, kind of explorative, it's very interactive weekend. And it really puts us in touch with our unconscious convictions. So there's belief systems and things that kind of bubbling beneath the surface that we don't see. And by kind of acknowledging those and kind of seeing them, we get a perspective on how conflict can be very healing. And it really does give us a change in our perspective on life. And so can what we're discussing tonight in this call. So we've got a few topics we want to get through tonight. But I'd like to start with welcoming you, Terryann. Thanks for coming on board and giving us your time this evening.
Thanks for having me again, Eloise.
Yay! So I'm bringing Terryann to sunny Brighton in October. So that's why we've been doing these events. And you'll find all the information about the class somewhere around this video. But Terryann, can we start talking about, we wanted to start talking about taking responsibility this evening.
Yes, that was the idea, was to start talking about what responsibility means to us.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we explore in the course are connotations for things. So a lot of us have different connotations for what responsibility means to us. So it would be interesting as whoever's online to just toss out what their definition is. And we'll explore different ways of kind of fallacious ways of dealing or thinking about responsibility. So often people think responsibility is a burden, the things I have to do. Some people think it's guilt. I'm guilty, so I have to. I think my favorite phrase to hate is, I need to own it. And I just think, no, that's not what we're doing. I get a little philosophical when I think of those words. I need to own it. We don't get too philosophical in breakthrough, but they're just a couple of things like, can you own anything? I mean, our experience is here that we buy something and we seem to own it. But we are going to transition at some point, and none of that's going with us.
Yeah.
And, I'd heard from, I think it was John Beltime talked about the native Aboriginals of Australia, that they didn't even have a word for theft because there wasn't really ownership. So they would just borrow. They called it borrowing. So they would take something, borrow it, somebody, kind of like, natural moving energy. So it's just interesting to perceive that not everyone sees things. So if we actually, somebody said, well, this is a course where we're going to own our stuff. Well, if an Aboriginal came from Australia, they wouldn't understand what you're talking about.
They'd have no concept of it.
No concept of it. So, these are just, very kind of, an unnatural or a skewed or a personalized definition of what responsibility is. So for everyone to be clear, responsibility means the ability to respond. Very different energies. So the minute you hear something like that, the ability to respond, and you think of all of your connotations for responsibility, well, I'm guilty, so I have to own it. It's my burden. There are all the things I have to do. I'm sure you could just kind of feel how heavy that energy is. So don't trust me. Just do it yourself. Just see what your definition is of responsibility and just feel how that works within your body, right? For me, it feels like my shoulders will hunch over. And we know energetically that the shoulders often hold those responsibilities, but it is a skewed definition of responsibility, a connotation. And so, I'd like to ask you, Eloise, what's your experience of taking responsibility? Or, what are your different experiences of taking responsibility?
Well, what was popping into my head, and I don't know if this is kind of relevant, but I was really thinking about people that cannot, I don't know why this is popping in my head while we were chatting about it, but people that cannot sit down and do nothing. Like they have to do something the whole time. Otherwise they don't feel they've got a purpose.
Yeah.
And I guess this isn't quite taking responsibility, but it's almost like they don't feel like there's anything there if they're not doing something. So in a way, they're not taking responsibility.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're positing. Yeah, kind of the screen just went off, and I'm kind of like, all right, I was looking at you and I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm making quite a few assumptions here, by the way. I'm just intuiting what you're saying. So if someone believes that they are a thing, or they believe that they are, it's just, if you identify with something, so someone who can't sit down and always doing something, they're identify for whatever reason, right? It doesn't matter what the reason is. There's an identification with, for example, some people say productivity. I've got to accomplish things. I've got to get things done. So in that way, you could say, these are my responsibilities. I have to get them done. And when I get them done, then I can relax. But think about things really simply. If you're dusting your house and you got to keep dusting your house, the dust is going to come back. You're paying your bills, you got to pay your bills, but your bills are going to come back. I've got to get the dinner ready. I've got to get the dinner ready. But you're going to have to do it again and again and again. So in my sense, you can tell me if this is what you meant, is that you're doing all these things and you're no longer, I would say, in a healthy control of your life.
Yeah.
You're not making choices. You're actually living from a place where your behaviors are driven. And those driven behaviors are usually coming from some belief, some conviction about life. So let's say, for example, it comes from the conviction, well, I feel more worthy if I get things done. Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel really good at the end of the day because I've done everything I need to do or should or have to do, right? But, after a while they say, but I'm exhausted. I'm not enjoying my life. I'm not happy. Well, then you might say, why don't you just not do it?
Yeah.
And it would be a practical action, just don't do it. But then who's going to get it done? So now that someone is not taking responsibility for something, we don't know what that is till we start doing the work with them, you realize that you're not living your own life. You're living some regimented regulation of life. And that's so much what BreakThrough is about, is that we have rules, and those rules are what hold us back, right? Those rules are what I want to find the best way to state it. The rules are rules for living I guess because I'm kind of focused on what it prevents us from doing. It prevents us from living into life fully. It prevents us from having an experience, right? But our rules for living also have another side as well. It's going to protect me from seeing what I don't want to see about myself.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to protect me from...
Is it like if I'm busy, then I don't have to sit with me?
I think that maybe someone might consciously say that. No, I'm too afraid to sit down and stop doing something because then I'd have to face myself. Yeah, but that kind of defense mechanism has been in place since they were kids. And they're actually avoiding an identity that they believe they are but isn't true. It's not true. Now, how do we know it's not true? Well, can you be something? Can you be an action?
No.
No. Can you be anything? Can you be good or bad? No, it's kind of that idea of that if I'm all these identities, I'd experience myself as this constant, ever-changing, mutating thing, and that's not really how we experience ourselves. Or another way you could say it, that's one way of saying it, but another way is, well, if I'm in action, I would have to be that action all the time to be it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If I am something, it can't change to be the truth, because the truth.
Yeah. So you'd say, I am sleeping, but you can't sleep all the time. You have to wake up at some point.
And the Latin languages, I'm not sure about all of them, but in French, you won't say, I am cold. You can't say j'ai froid. You say, je suis froid. You say j'ai froid. You can't be cold. You can only have cold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it makes so much sense in these Latin languages. But in English, we say things like I am, with the understanding that, well, I'm not really that. It's my experience. It's almost like a tagline for the moment. So often people get very confused between, usually if we had a bunch of people in front of us, but wait a minute, but I can act badly. Well, yes, you can act badly. Well, I can be bad. Well, no, you can't, because that would be something that you would actually be, and it would never change. And this kind of conceptualization is very, very difficult for people when they really sit down and question themselves, can I be these things? Right? We have a lot of emotional connections to these things. It's I kind of like to look at it as, if somebody thinks they're unworthy, they almost wear it like a badge of honor. As much as they're suffering, the mind will keep taking them back to a lack of worth. And it's almost like this badge of, well, I'm not worthy, so nothing's ever going to work for me. And in BreakThrough, we ask questions to get them through that, because that energy, or the defensiveness, is actually protecting them from something they think is true, but it's not. So it's really interesting, if someone feels or says, I am unworthy, more than likely their unconscious identity is going to be, I am worthy. So that's fascinating, because you're finding the gold within the shadow. And oftentimes people do not want to live into the gold. So well, I'm not worthy. Well, you ask them, well, what do you think of people who think they're worthy? Oh my God, they're so arrogant.
Yeah.
There we go. We've got a problem there.
Yeah.
Right. So, you think you're acting differently, but you're not. Your driven behaviors are always acting the same way, whether you're worthy or you're not worthy, until you realize you're neither. Now what happens from then? Well, now I step into different types of behaviors, or I like to say suits. Right now I'm in I'm in my little suit where I'm talking to you and I'm doing this, but it's not who I am. I don't leave here and keep lecturing. right? You know, just one of the activities that this body-mind goes into.
Yeah.
I don't like to say body-mind because it's just the I am is having an experience. And it's spontaneous, it's childlike, it just has an experience, and each of these experiences are different. But once we have a wound, this human experience is so strange because everything gets convoluted through our developmental years. You know, I remember once listening to, I can't remember who it was, but they said, you know, a soul that's in your body. You can use this as a metaphor, but the soul is going through the journey, and you know what? They have to go through being a fetus and being a baby and learning how to walk again so they can transmute karma, right? And they don't want to come back and do it again. You have to keep doing this over and over again, and you have to go through this child phase where you have to, you know, accrue all these different identities and go through, you know, all of the experiences of childhood along developmental process till you figure it out. I mean, the Buddha's story is that he was born and, you know, walked and talked and was completely self-aware, right? There's one of those stories of the Buddha, which would be grand if we could do that, but we're not, right? This process of breakthrough is kind of an enlightenment process. I don't look at it as a goal because every time you have a goal, you're most likely an overreaction and holding convictions, because I don't even know what enlightenment means. And, you know, it's most likely I'm not seeking enlightenment, I'm seeking full self-realization. And, you know, one of my favorite stories is when I was about, I think, 31 years old, I had done, you know, 7 to 10 hours of meditation a night. I was working with different teachers and just really peaceful, not overreacting at all to anything. And I remember this particular day I was walking down the street, and my sister came to meet me. I'm just walking down the street with my, you know, this new persona that I have, that I thought was real. And here was this persona, and my sister was looking at me and everyone that was coming by. People came up and touched me. People were smiling at me. She said, "This is so weird. All these people are just, you know, looking at you. How do you do that? I want to do that. I want to be able to have everybody smile at me. I don't want this aggression that I get. You know, I want all of that." And I'm like, well, I think I made it. I did it. Like, overreactions. I made it. Check. Now I can just live my life. Sorry. Sorry, I swallowed my saliva in the room.
That's okay.
And, you know, I don't remember how much longer later, my mom came in. She was living in the U.S. at the time, and I went up to her house, and, you know, I'm in this, you know, very peaceful state, you know, kind of white light, yes. And I thought, wow, this is great. You know, it'll be so nice to see Mom, and, you know, won't have all these triggers that I always have with her. And I walk in the room. I just walk in the front door, and I big smile, and Mom, and she looks at me and she goes, "What's wrong?" I lose it. I mean, I completely have a total, complete meltdown.
Wow.
So anytime you think you're enlightened, go visit your family. Right?
Yeah.
So just to get back to responsibility, it's one of the most important things that we need to do when we're doing this work, and it's something that I think anyone could do on a daily basis, is take responsibility for your actions. So most of the time when you're looking at the world, when you're living in blame victim consciousness, you'll often accuse a situation, another person, for your actions. So, well, you made me act that way. What you said caused the reaction in me. So, of course, that just creates a chain reaction.
Yes.
No, it was you. No, it was you. Yes, this crazy kind of back and forth energy of, and it's terrible energy, right? Just horrible, where you're kind of throwing the hot potato. No, it's you. No, it's you. No, it's you. And you spiral into these arguments, and then you often hear people saying, "Yeah, but my husband will never, or my wife will never, or never, 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 never." Well, yeah, and if you don't take responsibility for your actions, then of course you're just going to throw your actions at someone else. So it's one of the most beautiful things when you take responsibility. Now, I say that, and I'd like to share another story that I think is quite vital. This is a big mistake I made. I understood very young that I needed to take responsibility. Very, very young. And I was working through that. I understood, well, why aren't people being responsible for their actions? And something quite interesting occurred. I must have been 14 or 15, and I had an argument with my mother. And she said, "You're acting like a brat. You're acting, disobedient. You're impossible. You're, a few other words." And in that moment, because I understood I needed to take responsibility, I said, "Yes, I am. I am. I take responsibility for my actions. They are mine. They're not yours. This is how I am acting, Mom." And she turned around and said, "Yes, you are." And there was usually when you do something like that, the other person's energy kind of shifts. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to at all. But with a sincere apology, and I knew it was sincere. No, I'm sorry. I thought it was sincere. And I realized that when I took responsibility towards her, I was actually expecting her to take responsibility for her actions. So I'm so glad you're shaking your head, because it seems to me that was clear to you.
Yeah.
It's clear
Yeah, because quite often it's the manipulation of the situation. We want someone else to go, "Oh, no, it's okay. It was me all along. I'm sorry I said that." Or
exactly. Well, I was doing it sincerely that I was taking responsibility, but I wasn't clear that I may take responsibility for something. And I mean, more often than not, you go back to your family and things have shifted. You may be working with someone and it shifts for you as well. Or, sorry, you may be working with someone and the person they're having an overreaction with. Once they take responsibility, you see their relationship shift. So that's what I didn't understand at the time, was that I'm not taking responsibility, and that will change my entire life. No, I take responsibility, and from there I take practical action. Now, why do I bring this up? I think it's really important, because when you're able to take responsibility and your convictions go, and you no longer blame yourself, you don't blame anyone else, you're no longer victimized, the resultant effect is that you can take a practical action. One of the mistakes I find people make is that, oh, if I take a practical action, the other person will do what I want. And that is a clear mistake. That's not necessarily what happens. You take a practical action, it's good and right for you, but that doesn't mean the other person is going to act accordingly. But you become more empowered. And it's very powerful to take responsibility. It's very powerful to break the ties of codependency with someone else.
Yeah.
Because we often don't take responsibility because we think that, for example, we may think that's how you have a relationship. How else do you have a relationship? I don't know. Isn't that the way relationships run? Aren't I supposed to do what my partner wants and my partner does what I want? well, that's a rule, and that's your rule, but I'm certainly, like to know how well that's working for you, and if that really is what a relationship's about. And oftentimes this is where people get kind of disconcerted. It's like, well, wait a minute, I have all the answers to everything. Well, okay, you do, but how is that for you? Well, it's awful, but at least I'm comfortable. So this paradox is strange, right? To say I'm uncomfortable in my comfort zone, or my comfort zone, sorry, is uncomfortable. So, but people don't actually hear what they have to say. So it's often great to write what you're saying down, because you get to see, oh, okay, well, I'm saying I'm in my comfort zone, but it's awful here. It's awful. So what am I?
It's the known. It's a known territory. It's familiar.
It's known, but it's like being in a toxic soup, though, right? So when I was a kid, anytime I was in a toxic soup like that, this avenue, I would look at my two avenues and I would say, no matter what it takes, I want to go down another road. I don't care what that takes. I'm going to do what it is to go down the other road and not stay. As a kid, I've been melodramatic most of my life, but the melodrama was I would rather die than stay where I am. So, that's quite a metaphor, right? So dying is transformation, right? So we can transform and go into something else. And there has to be a better way. No, this was my insistence. And when I met the founder of the BreakThrough system, who is Esther Beltime, and she was telling similar stories to the stories I had, just this sheer desperation to get out of the situation and turn around and say, no matter what it takes, there has to be a better way. And I think those few phrases are what drew me so deeply into BreakThrough, not really knowing what was going on and what we were going to do, but those small phrases just catalyzed so much for me to be able to begin to teach this work, to commit myself to the last 13 years of teaching this work, of studying. It's an ongoing study. We don't know everything. All we're doing is asking questions, right? So here, again, I'd like to reiterate for listeners that, we are talking about this subject, and it's really not the most efficacious way of communicating what's going on. The communication of self-inquiry really, it comes through the questioning.
Yeah.
So, and we do not look for answers. This is what everyone should know. You're not coming to BreakThrough to find an answer. You're coming to BreakThrough to refine your next question. And that question, each question you explore, there's a greater and greater opening to self-awareness. Greater and greater freedom.
Yeah.
Not that freedom can grow. Freedom is already an absolute. It's only our perception that freedom can be limited, right? It's unlimited. And our freedom is unlimited as well. And you might say, well, my body can't fly. Well, yeah, okay, that's a limitation, but you are free to find different ways of flying.
Yeah.
It's only the limitations of the mind.
Yeah.
Grow some wings. It's only those limitations. So that kind of goes to one of my recently favorite topics, because I notice people don't really forgive themselves. They don't forgive themselves for who they were. I'm not really going to describe it in terms of BreakThrough, but just give you some examples of, well, okay, think back 20 years ago in your life. If you're 20 years old, think back 5 years ago. And the things you didn't know, the things you did and you didn't know, or something you feel guilty about, something you blame yourself for. People blame themselves for things they did at 12 years old, 11 years old, 9 years old, and all throughout life. And if you think of one thing, the person you are today is aware of something that person wasn't aware of. That person that you were was living in a very different space. You could say in a state of ignorance, in a state of not knowing, and now you're older and you know, hey, that didn't work out so well for me. Right, and what ends up happening is, one, we don't take responsibility, and two, there's a massive process of self-accusation going on. You shouldn't have done it. You know, you're bad for doing it, right? We're just...
Yeah, if only you hadn't done that.
If only I hadn't done that, etc.
If only I had done, all the...
Yeah, I find it a very interesting exercise to just go back in time and, be that person I was for a moment and really see how she didn't know anything.
Yeah.
13 years ago, I was a 45-year-old woman, relatively young person, and I started BreakThrough. And oh my God, I thought I knew what I was getting into. I didn't really know I had to go around and teach all this. That wasn't what I knew. I thought that when I started this work that I had a deep understanding. And 13 years later, I feel like I know less than I knew yesterday.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? And a disinvolution, you could say, of, not knowing something. Just keep unlearning, and there's more and more that I don't know. So here's where after all these years, really seeking out the appropriate question is phenomenal. Right? Yeah.
We're never going to get the answer. It'll never be 42. Sorry, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans.
But if you find the answer, you've already found another conviction.
Yeah.
Right? So oftentimes people will come to BreakThrough and start lecturing about how life is and how it works.
Yeah.
So, no, because I won't necessarily agree with the way you think life works, and somebody else won't agree. And I don't necessarily want to follow your rules. And you don't necessarily want to follow my rules. I find it interesting in the exploration of the human being's need to find a utopia. And utopian kind of thinking is, strange to say the least, because it holds an element of arrogance that says, I know what utopia would suit you and I.
Yeah.
If I think I know what utopia will suit you, it's quite arrogant. I know what peaceful state is going to be the best for you. You can already feel the pressure, right?
Yeah.
So utopian ideals are when people say we want world peace, we want this, we're not clearly thinking, right? So we say, well, this is the way everything's going to be done. That doesn't mean you don't have systems in place and work through things, but my sense is what the real work is to be looking at your dark side. And as we said earlier, the dark side does not necessarily hold demons. It can, and it's a good idea to get a stranglehold on those demons. It's a good idea to see how demonic you can be as an individual, but there is also gold within the shadow.
Yeah.
I find most people who come to BreakThrough, I'd say the majority, are ones that are already saying they are demonic, right? So they often find the gold, right? That's the clarity that they gain. And even when you find something you don't like in the shadow, it becomes the gold because it frees you.
Yeah.
So either way, you're pulling out these nuggets that, they are golden nuggets.
Yeah. And that's what we want, isn't it? Golden nuggets.
We do. Because each time you've pulled out this golden nugget, well, you've got so much more, I want to say potential, but I don't know if I like that word for the moment. I mean, that's a possibility, but more choices available to you, right? So when you're in reactionary living, right? You got a driven behavior. You're constantly reacting to the world, people, your family, your friends, your boss. Same old story over and over and over again, consistently going on. Yeah, exactly. Right? It's dizzying. It's stupefying. Sometimes I think back now and I go, wow, it's completely incredulous that someone who is going through an overreaction is not seeking desperately to find another way. This always kind of stupefies me. I mean, I sought all over the world. I mean, from the Dalai Lama to Daskalos to all kinds of teachers. I eventually fall on to, John Beltime. And I went, well, yeah, this guy's terrific. But it still didn't answer my other burning questions, burning overreactions. Some of them were met, right? Because in Body Talk, we have something called active memory, which, oh my God, my first session ever of Body Talk, she did active memory, and I got up and I was a completely different person.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening all the time, right? I was still triggered. So a few years later, coming into Esther's class was one of the most phenomenal experiences, because I went, oh my God, there's an actual technique to deal directly with something that catalyzes you. And this is really that work.
Because we've got so much going on in life and everyone's so stressed, people are getting triggered by things and overreacting all day long and not even noticing. So to actually step out of that and go, there is another way, I can get through this and experience freedom.
Exactly. And the way the rules of our society have worked recently, I'm just giving an idea. I'm not saying I know this, but just looking around, just the way our world works is as you mentioned earlier. We've got to do. We've got to perform. You got to do all these things with the kids. You got to make sure the house is perfect. You got to make sure that you're doing well at your job, etc. Air pollution, noise pollution, driving in traffic constantly, from play dates to getting somewhere to appointments to. I mean, half the time I really don't get how anyone can even go for a doctor's appointment, right? Yeah. We have, or like you, we have social health care, and it could take 5 or 6 hours to get in to see a doctor. So thank God I have Body Talk and osteo and all the rest of the things I do.
It can take 5 or 6 days.
It'd be possible. So, life is just this very, and technology, right? I know we've heard this over and over again, and I'm reiterating that technology has put additional stress on us, and we're not taking time to we said. I remember we used to say in the '60s, take time to smell the flowers. Well, now it's really ridiculous. We're nowhere near smelling the flowers, right?
Some people have never seen a flower, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's highly probable. Never seen
a real one.
A meadow or a forest. There have always been many people who've never seen an ocean or snow. So there has to be these different people.
Yeah.
So just seeing all of that, just to bring some clarity, the fascinating thing about BreakThrough is as though a space opens up. You do this, and all of that overreactionary stuff, all of a sudden you got a lot more time.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that, I was even curious, how come I have more time now? Why am I not as rushed? And I realized there's so much going on in my head, it's not there anymore. So everything just runs a little bit smoothly. I remember one day it was 2:00 in the afternoon. And I went, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I usually work like a maniac all day long, and it doesn't end till, 10, 11 at night. Why is it 2:00? Have I lost some brain cells? I'm looking around on my scheduling. I'm going through all of my, to-do lists, and it's all done. Went, this is insane. That means I have space now to be creative. So from then on, I was able to add some space to be more creative. And, another aspect that occurred was my healing, just leaps and bounds of healing that was going on in me physiologically, and continues to do so. Every breakthrough that I go through, I definitely, experience some release in my body. Yeah. Now, you don't know all the details of what's going on with me, but, lots of pain in the body and inability to move. Just in June, it's now not even the end of September 2017. In June 2017, I was walking with a cane, and I walked around without a cane. And I can walk a block. And I did it quite a few times. So very, very different experience. And yes, I've had a lot of body talk, etc. But one of the biggest shifts in the flexibility of my muscular system came with one of these huge realizations in breakthroughs, and that's refining the question. Yeah.
It can be very quick.
It can be. It definitely. The sessions are long, but you're unraveling a series of rules that you've made for yourself. So, you want to do this work as an ongoing process, right? So it's something that you could take the course, and then from there, there's self-exercises you can do. Anytime I have a talk, you get on and you ask questions, and it deepens your understanding. And you can, if you're a member of the IBA Association, you can get free breakthrough online on the forum. Once you've taken the class, there are other people you can connect with. And you swap breakthroughs. So swapping breakthroughs is the number one way to keep freeing yourself. You just keep freeing yourself. So, consistently doing that is really, really important. It's really, really. And, it's a gift that keeps on giving. It's not like it's, it's so interesting. People sometimes complain about finances, and I say, well, there are ways to do it for free. You can pay for everything. The course itself you have to pay for, but you can definitely find ways to get breakthroughs for free.
Yeah, once you've taken the class. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. It's wonderful. It's a great resource to have. And just that understanding and changing of your awareness and your perception of things, just incredible.
It really is. I just want to smile because I'm the luckiest person on the planet that I can do this, and not for others, for myself.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because the swapping of breakthroughs, as we mentioned, is not just because you're receiving it, but to be able to lead someone through a breakthrough is a powerful process, because you have to see the question that you're going to ask, right, and question the assumptions. So the two sides of this coin are very powerful.
Yeah.
So I do it all for me. That's why I do it. And I think if I was doing it for someone else, I probably would stop.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it if I was doing it for everyone else. The byproduct is, everyone else gets a wonderful thing out of this, but I definitely do it for myself. And yeah, for my own desperation to get out of any problems. Of course, I'm not as desperate as I was 30 or 40 years ago, but you do have those moments where, oops, there's something trying to
there's always something bubbling. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing tonight.
Thank you, Eloise.
Really great.
For being here and doing this work with me. It's so wonderful. You're always a pleasure. Thank you for everything. Thank everybody for being on.
Yeah, thank you for everyone being on, and everyone who's going to watch this in the future as well. Hello. If you want to ask us any questions, I'll put my email on the video and just drop us a line, and we'd love to connect and maybe see you at a class soon with Terryann. So thanks, Terryann. Thanks for tonight. And thanks to everyone that's on the call. And we will catch up with you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.